Well, Paul, what's on your minds these days about what's going on in the schools?
I've been uh, I've been delving through a lot of DEI trainings, teacher trainings, education
Oh,
trainings, videos. People have been sending me tons of stuff, and uh, I have gained. I have renewed my twisted admiration for some of the sophistication of the social technology that's being deployed. On children, on kindergartners. And the way it works is all through, like you said earlier, Carlin, you talked about, the natural fairness of kids
mhm.
and the sense that, of what's fair and unfair. And they haven't really learned, how some things are unfair. So and also they don't want kids to fit into the real world. They want them to change the real world to fit the better world.
Isn't
So,
that interesting? Can
yeah,
we just pause on that for a second? They don't want kids to fit into the real world. They want kids to change the world.
right, right. So if they create a maladapted person to reality,
That's the goal.
that's a feature, right? So like that's the goal. And so, and this is something that goes back to Marx, right? The job is not to understand the world but to change it. So there, this is just the latest, incarnation and language around that. And I just watched a video called um, small activist big impact, about how to teach kindergartners to be social justice warriors, and how to use, the presenter is talking about like using the child's natural sense of fairness as a platform, like using their minds. I think that the phrase used was use their minds. And the schema is really, it's all about, at the beginning it's all about personal identity. It's about developing a healthy self-concept. This is a lot of where the SEL stuff comes in. Relating to others, understanding, like they'll do identity work, they'll make identity boxes, identity wheels. And so it's really like about a journey of self-discovery. And this is like fairly benign, right? Or maybe it's beneficial, right? To have a healthy self-concept. Um, there's a lot to be said for that. I mean, in the past, I think there has been some neglect of that. So, but once you do that, then you move outwards into empathy, right? You see everyone else's identity boxes, but then once they have that platform, that's when it gets leveraged into the empathy part, right? So then they start introducing social issues, social problems. Does it seem fair to you that X is happening? In the way that they frame it, like frame an issue is, a social justice issue, say, is the unfairness of this, and these people are treated badly. um, the way they'll talk about stereotypes, like one in this presentation, they showed a picture of an ad for the Gap, and the girl's wearing pink and the boy's wearing blue, and it's, is this, what do you notice about this picture? Does this seem okay to you? Right? Then, and the sense is like, if a preference conforms to a stereotype, well, then that's bad. That's the message, right? It's And so it's training the kids to undermine maybe their own preferences or the preferences they hear from somebody else. If they conform to some gender binary, well, then they're bad. That's kind of the message. Um,
Wow.
so it's pretty sophisticated, and everything is like, we got to have a lot of snacks because kids love snacks, and they'll spend more time in your office. And we need boots on the ground. We need kids to get other kids to sign up for their affinity groups. So you need to have like kids that you trust to get the other kids to show up. Like they're not fucking around. I mean, this is serious manipulation, and it's all has the total patina of credentialism and organizational support. Um, you know, Hundreds of millions of dollars is flowing into this. Like this is, and it's going to take, like, this is going to be uh, a massive upheaval to like dismantle all this. Um,
It reminds me, I have this eighth grade class, like the recording of it on this channel because I have a viewer who, like, is 14 years old, was he actually in the class. And so he knew enough to hit record when his teacher started teaching the social justice module in their Zoom
yeah,
class. And so I have it on the channel. And it's kind of like what you just described. The teacher starts off with, you believe in the Pledge of Allegiance, don't you? Because the Pledge of Allegiance says fairness and justice for all. And if you want things, and we want things to be fair and just, don't we? Because we want our friends to be taken care of. And if you want your friends to be taken care of, then that means we have to do equity instead of equality, because equity is about just making sure everyone has what they need for what they particularly need. And if we want equity, that means we have to worry about systemic racism, because when systemic racism exists, we don't have equity. And then we have to give these people over here more, because it's not fair if we just give them the same amount as people. It's like the most nefarious thing ever. And it starts from a positive place of, we want everyone to be able to succeed in the world, and then they take it and they pervert it and they make it something, they make it something that it was not originally supposed to be.
Yeah, and again, the implicit message is if someone has less, it's because they've been treated unfairly and someone's taken it from them. Like there's no disparity without discrimination. So that is a moral, it becomes a moral imperative to redistribute resources, wealth, access, and there's no distinguishing between equality of opportunity and outcome. Yeah. That's the other thing. Is like, if there's a difference in outcome, well, then there must have been a difference in opportunity. So when I hear people talking about, oh, we need to say it's equality of, it's equality of opportunity, that's not something they even measure. And so, that's a tricky wicket there.
Are schools even teaching anymore the value of showing up and working hard and having a work ethic? And, because that's the difference really between equality of outcome and equality of opportunity, isn't it? It's do you show up and actually do the thing and try and practice and fail and learn from those failings and get better and show up better next time? Is that something that's even taught in the schools anymore?
I don't think so. I think it's actually, for a while it was considered kind of regressive, outdated. Not that teachers didn't do it, not that it didn't still linger, but there's an effort to fight it by calling that white supremacy culture.
Oh, good.
Yeah, you know what? I think it's mixed messages. I think there are teachers that talk about, that everyone kind of knows, even social justice warrior teachers kind of know that you got to do the work. But they're constantly undermining it with the message that Frank is talking about. It's white supremacy. Mm-hmm. It's actually, very stressful to push yourself to work harder. And that you need the message of self-care is like constantly undermining. So there are a lot of mixed messages floating around. And what that does is it gives both kids and adults a very easy excuse for not working hard. And making it an exogenous problem rather than something that's in them to change, that you have the agency to get a better outcome. And I think that's confusing to a lot of kids and adults too.
Mm-hmm. The other thing about with SEL that's really concerning to me, and it's the same thing. It's like it starts off from a good place. Like, I think that one of the most important things, I think that part of the reason all this woke crap has taken over our entire culture is frankly like a lack of personal empowerment and people not having positive self-constructs and not being able, like, most people can't step into their power the way that Frank and frankly you too, Paul, have stepped into your power and have stood up and have said, no, this is not correct. Most people can't do that because I don't think that they have the positive self-construct and like the self-worth and confidence to be able to say my opinions matter and my values matter and it's okay to say them. And I do think that when we start off with social emotional learning in terms of helping young people create positive identities and positive perceptions of who they are, I think that starts off from a really good place. But then when it gets perverted and you're teaching them that anyone who adheres to, the norm, whatever that norm might be, is a bad person, or they just haven't investigated it, or maybe they are, they're kind of like, they're outside the popular kids, right? They're out there, they're like the out group of people. If they subscribe to the norm, then you start to take something that starts from a good place and perverts it. Am I wrong?
That's what I mean about the subtlety of and the nuance and the the grain of truth and also this relationship, right? There's the stress on the relationship. Mm-hmm. So the teacher is like, it's not about teaching knowledge or content. It's about the relationship. So this teacher has a relationship with the student that gives the student an emotional power or valence or that kind of confidence, and that it's a nurture. It's really just it's in loco parentis, like on steroids, is what it is. It's teachers and bureaucrats usurping the parental like domain, in order to affect a certain type of change in the world, and it's really, really can't underestimate that's what's going on.